everyone, welcome back to the Boom Boom Room. I am back with you with another episode of Whispers Across America, and we are doing my home state of Arkansas. And for this edition, I have Reese with me here. How are you doing, Reese?
I'm doing good. Hello, everybody. Hope you're all having a fantastic Saturday.
Yes. And I will be releasing them on Saturday, so it could be it is on a Saturday. We just don't know. Maybe 2 weeks when we record this, but yeah, it is going to be on a Saturday. But yeah, I'm excited to have you on here. I'm glad you wanted to do this. You know,
Yes, I love this stuff. Um, and I've got some stories from when I'm younger, but that's a different, episode. But I enjoy all the episodes, but like I was so excited for you to start this series.
yeah, I've always had interest in this stuff. Ever since I was a kid. It always intrigued me the supernatural and spooky stories, and especially the ones that are supposedly true. You know what I mean? That's what makes it
Yeah,
even more
right.
scarier. you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's not something you're watching on TV. It's something that's been passed down from generations to generation,
Yeah,
and you got like people that are like, oh yeah, I saw this, or oh, when we were out camping here, and it just sends chills down your spine.
exactly. Especially those places that you can go visit too. That's what's cool about it. You mention a town or a place, and you can physically go there and check it out yourself. And see if it's
Yes,
real
yes.
or not and everything. But well, I guess without further ado, I will let you read the first one. I haven't really went over these. I say this every episode, but I kind of just scan over them because I don't want to sit there and really read them because I really want to kind of read them for the first time and and take it in if that makes sense. So
Yeah, sure.
if it's a
Yeah,
sorry story or it sucks, I'm sorry, but you know, uh, so I guess
we'll roll with it.
yeah, we'll roll
So
with
far,
it.
they've all been.
Yeah,
Yeah, so far they've all been.
so far. All right then.
All right. So the first story is going to be the ghost lights of the Ozarks, the Gurdon Light. Deep in the piney woods of southern Arkansas, near the tiny town of Gurdon, there's an old stretch of railroad track that hasn't seen a train in decades. But some nights, people say you can still see a railroad, whoops, still see a floating light glowing blue or white, bobbing along the tracks, flickering like a lantern in the mist. They call it the Gurdon Light. The story goes back to the 1930s during the Great Depression. A railroad foreman named Will McLean was murdered and beaten to death with a railroad spike maul and his body dumped somewhere near the tracks. Some say it was a disgruntled worker. Others think there was something darker at play. Not long after McLean's death, the strange light began to appear. Locals say it drifts through the trees, always following the tracks, sometimes hovering just out of reach. Some witnesses say the light moves like a man swinging a lantern left, right, left, looking for something he lost, maybe even his own head. Others believe the light is tied to the land itself, something older than the railroad, maybe a spirit that got stirred up when the tracks were laid across the ancient ground. The Gurdon Light has been seen by police officers, news crews, scientists. No one has ever figured out what causes it. It doesn't reflect off metal, it moves with purpose, and it appears even when power lines are down and there's no moon in the sky. People still drive out there at night, park by the gravel road, and wait. Some never see a thing. Others come running back, pale and shaken, swearing they saw the light coming right at them. So if you're near Gurdon and feel brave enough, follow the old tracks through the pines. But don't go alone. And if you see the lantern swinging through the trees, don't follow it.
Have you ever heard
And
of
that
this
is,
story before?
I have not. I've heard like similar stories from other places. I
Yeah.
mean, not with the same, like background information, but essentially, an unexplained light, and it's often associated with a tragedy,
Yeah,
essentially. Sort.
what intrigues me is I've never heard of the story, in Arkansas at all. And then it's awful similar, I'm kind of telling you before I push record in Joplin, Missouri, they got a light that's got a similar story to that. It's called the Joplin Lights. And what it is, I encourage you to look it up if you get a chance, but you go on this gravel road, it's right out of Joplin, Missouri. It's kind of got that like closer to it's like up in the corner like Oklahoma and Kansas. But anyway, it's on a country road, and you'll see the light, and it'll turn different colors. It's like out off in the distance, a glowing light. It's like orange, and then it's red, and the closer you get to it, the farther away it goes. And then when you go to leave, it's like it's following you. It gets closer and closer, and it's not really been debunked at all. And they got stories and legends that similar to that. It's always some tragedy or railroad accident or some kind of murder or something like that. But that's what intrigues me, that I've heard that before from Joplin. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll check it out because I hadn't heard the one for Joplin, and I do know where that's at.
Yeah.
I've been through there. I have not been there, but I have been through there. Actually, not long after, and this has been quite a while ago, but after the tornado, like about a year and a half after the tornado tore through there.
Yeah, I was pretty close to there when that happened. I was in Kansas. I used to work during the time, and I'd go over to Joplin. I would work over in Kansas because Joplin had some famous little mom and pop eateries there, and I'd go over there, and they got a place called, I know it's weird sounding, Fred and Red's. And what it is, I know I'm getting on food now. It's an old timey. Yeah. As soon as you walk in, all it's got is a U-shaped counter with maybe 15 seats, like little stools, and there's always older ladies working in there, and they got like the old lunch lady white, clothes on, like they're all in white, and they serve hot tamales, hamburgers, and they call it spaghetti reds. What it is spaghetti noodles with chili on it. And I'm telling you what it is. It's the best chili mac you'll ever eat in your life. It really is. I've heard stories about people wanting to buy the owner out from other people that knew the owner, and he wouldn't, do it. I guess he'd but such a small place, it wasn't franchised. But that's why we go to Joplin. And that tornado, that was a disaster. Man, that was awful.
It was.
Those are horror stories in their own, tragedies.
Yes.
But prayers goes out to the people that's had, tornadoes through the Midwest just yesterday. So
yes,
St. Louis and everything. That's awful. Because I live in Tornado Alley and through Oklahoma, Arkansas. I'm telling you, you got to watch out. Take heed when storms comes, because it is a tragedy. But what do you think What do you think the lights are? Do you think it's some kind of phenomenon, some kind of gas, or?
I mean, so personally, like for me to try to feel how I felt about it, I would actually need to see it.
Yeah.
Now, I think it could be a number of things, and including some kind of gas pocket or something, or even, mist hits just right in, a tree area. But in the way they're explaining this, it doesn't really seem like that would be a thing. But I do believe that there are other, forces that we don't understand, whether you believe in, God or don't, good, evil. any of that. I believe that there are things that we'll never understand or be able to explain.
Uh-huh.
They're, on a level of comprehension that our like natural human defenses don't allow us to see or sense. Like we'll be able to feel that there's something there, but if you turn around and look, it's not there. That type of thing, which is why they say like babies and kids and dogs, will some animals will see something, hiss at it, growl at it, cry, point, and you look and there's nothing there
Yeah.
because they have been told that that stuff's not real yet. Well, I mean, and the dog, animals can't really
Yeah.
be told it's not real. So I think that there's a possibility that this exists and that, I would be curious to do more research on it and get hear stories from people who've
Uh-huh.
seen it or whether it's reading their story or hearing them tell it out loud, like we're doing now,
Yeah.
to get a more insight, I guess. But I
Yeah.
think it's highly possible that there is something there and it's something unexplainable.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's because a lot of like I said, that Joplin one, they haven't figured out, what it is. Some try to say it's lights, over, in far distant, but I've seen, experts still not debunk it. Still not debunk it. So, yeah, that's crazy. Things like that is definitely nutty. But I was going to I will read this one first, and then I was going to send you a picture because
Okay.
I've actually been to the museum and everything. I'll explain after I read it. All right. If you don't have anything else to add,
I don't, but I am going to mute while you're reading that because I think Nate just pulled up. Oh,
okay.
DOG.
Okay.
Just pulled up. The dogs are going to go nuts.
All right. That's no problem. Okay. All right. The next one is the Boggy Creek Monster, Arkansas Southern Sasquatch. In the swamps and dense river bottoms near Fouke, Arkansas, just a few miles from Texas border, a legend has been stalking the night for decades. The Boggy Creek Monster, also known as the Fouke Monster. The creature first exploded into public awareness in the 1970s after several families reported sightings and attacks. One family claimed the monster reached through the window trying to grab them, leaving behind claw marks and terrifying stink. Witnesses described it as 7 to 8 feet tall, covered in long, dark brown hair with glowing red or yellow eyes. Excuse me. And an unholy stench like something dead and rotting in the swamp. It walks on two legs like a man, but with powerful ape-like arms, and an eerie silence in its movements. Some say it's part man, part animal. Others claim it's the spirit of the swamp, protecting something or punishing those who come too close. The creature was so infamous it inspired the 1972 cult classic film, The Boggy Creek Monster, turning the sleepy town of Fouke into a hotspot for monster hunters, skeptics, and believers alike. Locals still report sightings to this day. In the early morning fog or late at night, they hear heavy footsteps, see tree limbs snap far too high to be human, or feel the primal sensation of being watched. If you ever find yourself near Boggy Creek, just remember, it's not what you see that should scare you. It's what sees you. So, have you ever heard of the Boggy Creek Monster, or the dog still going crazy?
No, that wasn't him. The garage door didn't open, but it sounded they both reacted, and they're pretty good at telling the difference between vehicles.
Yeah,
So I thought it was him. They reacted, but it just does sound like my car.
yeah.
No, I haven't. I haven't
was trying to send you a
I
picture.
haven't heard of this specific. Oh, I did look it up while you were reading it. I went ahead and looked it up, and I'm looking at
Uh-huh.
some of the
Yeah,
images that are
yeah,
coming up for
I've
it.
got this picture and I don't know why I can't send it to you. I hate it. Um,
Do you do you want to put it on the screen so
can't.
everybody can look at it?
No, well, I was gonna do that later, because I was gonna add
Oh, gotcha,
pictures,
gotcha.
but I can't. I was gonna send it to you first, and I don't know, because I have it on my phone and I don't have it on my PC. But anyway, it's the museum there, and I I've got some family that own a rehab, a church rehab down out of Texarkana, and I went down there and stayed for a few weeks about 10 years ago, and he took me to the museum, one of my great uncles, and when he took me to the museum and got late that night, he goes, I gotta pee, you know. He had like a van. So he pulls down this side back road, swampy back road, and gets out, goes to piss. I might as well got to pee too. Well, I get out to pee. When I get out to pee, he jumps in the van and takes off and leaves me there for about 20 minutes.
Oh God.
Yeah. He's a jokester. I was scared to death. I'm not gonna lie, because I've always heard. I mean, it was right there where everything happened at Fouke, and that's how you say it. A lot of people don't know how to say it, Fork or whatever, but it's Fouke. And
Fouke.
Fouke, Arkansas. Yep. Let me see if I can send it to you. Why is I can't? Well, anyway, I'll figure it out later. But it just shows the museum. There's like a little gas station, and it's pretty neat. I'll
Is it
I'll have,
art?
yep, that's it. I had pictures of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there.
Oh, that looks neat. I'd love to go there.
Yeah,
Love to go there.
that's.
And then
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't think that's too awful far from us, to be honest. We're
Texarkana.
um
I don't know. It's a little ways.
uh,
There's not much in Texarkana. I'm not making fun of Texarkana, but that's the
no.
biggest town. But yeah, there's not much there in Texarkana, but it's a neat little store. If you like going on a road trip and going through there, it's worth the stop. And
Oh yeah, it's only like four, three. Well, depends on which way you take. About 4 hours. The way DOG drives, probably about three and a half.
I used to be a fast driver, but I had too many auto accidents, so I just turned into an old man driver.
Well, and the majority of it is in Texas, and the speed limit on everything is pretty much,
Oh
70,
yeah,
75. So doesn't take that long to get anywhere. And nobody's going 70, 75. They're going 75, 80,
exactly.
85 sometimes. So,
Yeah, I
but
know.
yeah, that's not all. I didn't. You said Texarkana. It's like I don't think that's that far. And the bit about being close to the Texas border. I was like, I don't think that's that far from
No,
us
it's
then.
not that far. And I've heard, and I had this before. So yeah, the scariest city I've been in was Atlanta, and then Houston, and Dallas traffic. Yeah, it's crazy. But
Mm.
I recently met somebody through my other buddy Daniel through the Cryptid podcast that lives in Northeast Texas, and he's got some video and some stuff of Bigfoot, supposedly Bigfoot
Oh,
footage and some pictures, and there's supposed to be a
yeah.
lot of activity. They say that southeast Oklahoma, okay, southwest Arkansas and northeast Texas, that little area is a hot spot. I've seen a lot of like people to go out and look for it or look for evidence, researchers,
Sure.
boots on the ground. That's a hot spot. I think there's a certain area in southeast Oklahoma they call it Area X. It's got so many sightings and everything. And before I kind of believed in any of it. If you know, I went hunting in 2003. There's about 20 of us, and we rented some land from a guy from California, and it was in Antlers, Oklahoma, and that's the whitetail capital of the world, deer. And we went down there hunting, and we had 6,800 acres we rented. And I don't know, whatever it was to give him, it was like $650 each, you know. So I don't know how much we give him, like 12,000 or something to rent it for a year. But to get to it, we had to go, oh my gosh, way out in the middle of nowhere. Then go down a dirt road for 15 miles. So it's out in the middle of nowhere. I'm talking about we was having blowouts. And we had, because the roads were so bad, we was taking these old campers. We was primitive out there, you know. We had campers, and I remember at night I'd hear the craziest screams and like animal sounds. I'm not saying it was anything to do with Bigfoot, but man, I'd never been so scared, and our camper wouldn't lock, you know. And
Oh, geez.
and I remember my brother, he's in there snoring. He done drunk a few, you know. And I'm laying in there, and he's got the radio on. And, you know, I had some kind of heater because it's super cold. You know, it's hunting season. And he had the radio on. And I'm hearing all these sounds outside and everything, you know. And I got my sidearm there, of course, you know. And got my rifle, but I'm sleeping. He's got this radio on. He's got a program on, and I'm already scared. And you know how radios, you know, like talking low and they're telling stories, and you really hear it when you're laying there and you can't sleep. It's amplified, and all of a sudden I hear this woman say on the radio, "Yeah, come out of the closet," and it was a demon. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what am I listening to?" Talking about demons getting them in the night, and I'm already scared. And I got up and I turned the radio off because I was already kind of spooked, you know, because I was hearing sounds that was probably just nature. But anyway, I didn't know, but that was a real hot spot, you know, for Bigfoot activity and stuff like that. But as far as the people I've met lately, and you know, become friends with, it's in the cryptid community, it's the stuff that they go out and do, the boots on the ground. I don't know how they do it, man. I don't know how they go out there and not be so scared, you know, if you believe it or not. To get out there in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere, is crazy. And my buddy Daniel for the Cryptid Podcast, if anybody watching this that knows anything about cryptids or Bigfoot, he had last week, which will probably be later now, of course, but he had a guy named Ron Moorhead, and very, very old triple OG legend in the Bigfoot community. He's got something that's called, well, he recorded something called the Sierra Sounds. If you get a chance, Reese, look it up. Look up this. All you gotta do is look up the Sierra Sounds. And he supposedly recorded Bigfoot talking. They call it the samurai chatter. It's very, very spooky. You know, he's out in the middle of nowhere, and he's recordings back. I think, I don't want to butcher it. I think it was the either late 60s or early 70s. And they haven't debunked it, the recordings, you know, and to say they're fakes is what I'm saying. But if you get a chance after this, look it up, the Sierra Sound by Ron Moorhead, and it's spooky sounding. They sound like they call it, like I said, the chatter, Chinese or Japanese chatter. It's like they had their own language, you know, Sasquatch. But another question before I talk and I quit. What do you think about Bigfoot and cryptids? I mean, if you say that I don't believe them, that's fine, you know, because I've got friends who believe it both ways. So, what do you actually think
Yeah.
about it?
Oh, I absolutely believe that they're out there. And this just kind of goes to I guess for me, the reason that I believe that they're likely real is the fact that not only do you have sightings, but we find things all of the time still to this day, you know, scientifically, like somebody uncovers some bones and this is something new, or even just here recently in Texas, I can't remember what it is, but it's a new plant. It's never been seen before.
Really?
And it's in one of the state parks, and I would have to look it up to tell you what it is, but
Uh-huh.
because I don't remember. But we're still finding things, plant life, animal life, something deep in the ocean, stuff like that. So why would it be so impossible to believe that there's something like this out there that for years and years and years has developed a way to just blend into the background so
Yeah.
that you get glimpses of them,
Yeah.
maybe even have personal encounters with them from a distance, you know, like I can't remember who it was, so excuse me for that because I'm horrible with names, but you know, talking about when they were out, you know, him and his brother, and turns out the whole time his brother, he wasn't supposed to tell his brother anything he saw or heard, but the whole time his brother knew because his brother had seen him, and you know,
Yeah.
just recently on one of your episodes.
Yeah.
But you hear stuff like that all of the time, and it's one thing if it's one person or two people or 10 people, but when you've got hundreds of people that
Oh,
are
yeah.
essentially retelling the same kind of encounters, and you obviously you can't believe everybody and everything that everybody tells you. You've got to take some things with a grain of salt, but when it's consistently the same types of stuff, and you've got
Exactly.
people that you know in your heart are genuine and honest because you've known them for years, or whatever the case may be, you know, I don't feel like that's something that can be dismissed. That
Yeah.
and why would we not have something that could be out there that we have little knowledge of because they figured out how to keep themselves hidden from us.
Exactly.
And honestly, why would you, if you're something like that, why would you just be like, hey, look, I'm here, let's party? I mean, we don't have a very good track record with being nice to things. So
No, no, we don't. No, we don't. And you know, when I've when something happened to me 2011, and I know it was something supernatural, you know, and I've told it several times, you know, my story. Um, I don't know if it was something that wasn't natural because you know it scared me so much when it roared that it threw a fear in me. And what happened to me, I didn't. It was years later till I kind of would hear stories and it'd be so similar to what happened to me, almost down to a T, you know. And, and what happened, I'll tell it again. I'll tell it real quick, but it was like 2:30 in the morning. I was on my porch, outside smoking, about 50 yards, maybe 40 yards edge of the woods. And these woods, you know, not super wide, but they would go all the way to the Arkansas River. You could probably follow the woods for hundreds of miles. You know what I mean? You know, but the moon. I remember the moon was real bright. You know how you could see at night, and I heard something crashing through the woods. You know, and I think when something happens, you know, split seconds, your mind tries to rationalize, you know, real quick what it is. And I thought it was a ATV or one of those like mules, you know, they call them mules, ATVs coming through the woods. But because it was crashing, and I didn't hear a motor though, that was the deal. It sounded like a small car coming through the woods or an elephant, but no sound, but except the, you know, crackling and limbs breaking. So I looked real quick. This all probably happened within probably 5 seconds. I look and I see these trees, part, and I'm not talking about the real big ones, but I see these smaller trees, kind of part, and then like something coming through there.
Yeah.
And when it got to the edge, that it stopped, and I'm like, man, what is that? And then it roared, and it sounded, oh gosh, I could not explain to you. It sounded like a freaking lion, but it was deep too. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I know,
Guttural.
yeah, guttural, and it was so loud from that far away that it shook my insides. And I've been to
Oh,
NASCAR races, IndyCar races, and funny cars. I've been to fast fuel funny cars, in Kansas.
yeah.
Watched them, and that's what it felt like. My whole insides would vibrate, and it threw a fear in me that I probably for 3 seconds couldn't move. You know, now I would probably investigate more. I maybe. But yeah, I went inside and I can't. From there, I don't even remember what happened. I think I just went inside and got scared. I don't know, prayed or whatever. It's been so long, but I never did go back out. I just kind of I think I kept rational after that and just dismissed it. You know what I mean? Like, kind of forgot about it because a lot of people do. But I do believe in my heart that was something, a cryptic and something unnatural. But when you hear these, like you said, when I hear and meet people, and I'm not giving the credibility just because there's certain things they do in life, but when you meet preachers, lawyers, police officers, people of faith, and tell you these similar stories, I mean, there's got to be something to it. You know what I mean? And then you take this here too. What about the cryptid community? There's about Bigfoot. The main thing they are, which I think it's kind of stupid, is they argue about it. The ones that believe, they argue that it's a flesh and blood creature, and then they argue that it's supernatural. And I believe it's a little bit of both. I don't know what you believe on that part. But I do believe that you got supernatural powers to a certain extent. But yeah, and Bigfoot's scary, but Dog Man, that's even scarier.
Yeah, it's a whole different. Yeah, I think if you're talking, about like Bigfoot and things like that, I think it's probably a little bit of both. I think they're probably like a physical being
Yeah,
with, like you said, some sort of supernatural ability, as opposed to just being 100% supernatural,
yeah,
like, something that, crawled out of a hole in the ground one day and, back
yeah.
in never to be seen again or to just randomly be seen. I think they're like out there living.
I do too.
Going back to that plant, I did look it up. It's the woolly devil, and it was discovered in Big Bend National Park, in March of 2024
Wow.
by one of the park volunteers. And it's part of the Daisy family, but the DNA analysis on it is so distinct that it warrants its own genus of plant. So its
Wow.
official name is Ovicula barradiata. I'm probably butchering that, but yeah. And so now the thing is, and I haven't heard much about it, but the question remains is will they see it again this year in the
Yeah.
park and spread? Because
Wow, that's nuts. So, what does it look like? Is it?
it kind of looks like a let me see if I can pull this up.
I have to.
So it kind of looks more along the lines of a succulent,
Uh-huh.
but it's very hairy looking, like
Uh-huh.
almost like it probably has like fuzz all over it, which I'm assuming maybe helps protect it from, I don't know if they're pokey or anything, but
Oh,
almost maybe looks like um maybe to protect itself from like insects and stuff.
Gotcha.
And then, it's got some tendrils that come out of it or whatever. I'll get a picture sent to you if you want to put it in,
Yeah,
here when you edit.
yeah, that'd be cool.
So,
I had some pictures. I don't know why that I can't send some of my pictures in Discord on my camera roll to Discord. It doesn't pop up.
does
Hold
it
on.
not pop up or are they just grayed out?
They just won't pop up.
Huh.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I have them on my phone, but then again, I can't. It's nuts. But anyway, I'll try to put. I've seen some pictures. There's a group I belong to, and I'm not going to name any names because I probably never watched this. But there's a guy that had a famous dogman encounter in Louisiana years ago, and he's on a podcast. Uh, what what lurks beneath, is that the name? He's got a new podcast. He's got two channels, this guy. But anyway, he was on it, and he's got a friend that supposedly these dog men are all around her place, and the whole family sees them. And he had a picture on there of a dog man. I'm telling you, man, it looks so real in the background and stuff. Now these dog men, I've heard a lot of stories about them that, that they're really evil. If you ever anybody watching this, the LBL, look that up. Land beneath the lakes, between the lakes. That is crazy. The stuff that's happened there, with Martin Groves and Daryl Denton. And my friend Daniel is good friends with Daryl Denton. But if you want to look a story up, Race, that will freak you out, watch that. Martin Groves was a police officer, ex-police officer, and he had crazy encounters there, and there's got a history with land between the lakes too. Supposedly, a murder in the '80s, the whole family. Some say it was Dogman that done it, but yeah, I've heard a lot of stories about Dogman. There's a few podcasts that I've watched. Man, could you imagine saying a freaking werewolf? A dog,
No.
man. They say it, and most of them say when they stand up, dang, and they're real muscular, and the dog head, kind of like a German Shepherd. Oh my God, I could not imagine. I would literally crap myself and pee myself. Well, I'd probably throw me in a heart attack. I'd probably have a heart
Maybe,
attack.
yeah. Make me
But
want to walk around with a steak and be like, here, have this.
yeah, I don't think they're actually werewolves like, humans.
No.
I just think they're some kind of creatures that the government is probably, because you hear a lot of stories. I'll say this, and I'll keep going on with the story. But I believe the government does a lot of. That's why the government knows about these cryptids and Bigfoot, but they don't want to tell the public because I think it's a money deal. And then second, we got idiots out there to be trying to hunt them all over,
Yeah.
So I really think that's the deal with that. All right, we need to move on. I got on Bigfoot. I could talk all day about Bigfoot.
That's okay. I'm enjoying it.
All right.
Hopefully the audience is too.
Yeah, hopefully my banter.
Excuse me, sorry.
You want to read your last one?
Sure. All right. So the next one is going to be The Haunting of the Peel Mansion, Spirits of the Ozarks. In Bentonville, Arkansas, not far from the modern bustle of the Walmart headquarters, sits the Peel Mansion, a beautiful 1875 Victorian home built by Confederate Colonel Samuel West Peel. But behind its grand architecture and carefully trimmed gardens lies a darker history, a haunting widespread about for generations. Visitors and staff claim to hear footsteps on the stairs with no one there, voices in empty rooms, the piano playing itself late at night. Some believe the spirit of Mrs. Peel, the colonel's wife, still walks the halls, keeping watch over her home she helped build. Guests report seeing a woman in black looking out from the upstairs windows when the house is locked and empty. Others speak of a child's laughter and a small figure running past the doorways believed to be the Peel children who may have died young. Strangest of all, some say the temperature drops suddenly in the parlor and you can feel a cold hand touch your arm even when you're alone. Paranormal investigators have recorded EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon, that include whispers saying things like, "Get out," and "This is mine." Whether you believe it or not, one thing is certain. The Peel Mansion remembers the past, and it isn't always at rest.
What do you think about ghosts? Let me ask you this. I know we all got our own opinion on this. What do you believe in ghosts?
I do. So I have some stories from when I was younger.
Uh-huh.
About, stuff that's happened that I've seen, that I've felt, that are unexplained. And to me, those things that have happened to me led me to believe in things like ghosts and the supernatural.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to talk
And I would be,
about some of them, or you want to talk about them in a
well,
different setting.
I mean, yeah, we could do that. Like, I could just give you like one quick story now, but I would be interested in some time if you wanted to do,
Yeah.
An episode, where we talk about like other stuff, supernatural, non-supernatural, whatever.
Yeah.
But so the one, and this is not my first encounter, but it was my first horrifying encounter. It was after my oldest son was born. And he slept in the room with us for, the first couple months in a bassinet. And he got to a point where he was getting, starting to move around a lot, starting to push and try to like kind of roll over, and essentially just getting too big for me to feel like he was safe in the bassinet. And being that he was my first one, I hated the thought of him being in a crib in another room. But I also knew at some point in time I had to move him.
Yeah.
And there just wasn't enough room in our bedroom for a crib. At the time, my husband at the time, like where we lived at, it was a tiny house then, so not very much room. It's out in the country. No known anything, history of anything with it to, make you think that, oh, you're on consecrated ground, or, nothing bad happened there to our knowledge. Just an house out in the country. So nothing associated with it that we ever did find or hear about. And so he'd been in his room for maybe 2 hours, and I just was having a hard time sleeping because, of course, first time he's in his new room and not right there. This is before baby monitors and like all of that stuff. So it's not like I could even like hear him. And I finally fell asleep, and I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, drenched in sweat, mortified, like terror, like couldn't breathe. And all I could think is, my son, I have to get to my son. I have to get to my son. I have to get to my son. Not any idea why. I just knew I needed to get to him. And I hopped out of bed and I ran down the hallway and into his room. And like the whole way I was going down the hallway, I was like, you got to get the light on. 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 And as soon as I got in the room, and as I'm turning on the light, all I could see is a shadow coming down the wall over the top of his crib. And we had a tomcat at the time, and this was my baby, and I'd had him for a long time. He jumped up in the crib and was hissing as I flipped on the light switch.
Wow.
And once I turned on the light switch, I immediately felt a calm, like everything was okay. But of course, I went and I checked on him. He's fine. He's sleeping. Didn't make a peep. Didn't wake up. even when the cat jumped in the crib. And from that point on, like, I did not want to like take him in that room ever, and I always felt like there was something wrong with that room.
Yeah.
So we moved him to a different room because it was a 3-bedroom and it was just the three of us. Um, so I moved him to the other room, which was a little farther away from our bedroom, but I just didn't want him in that room anymore. But that cat slept with my son every night from that point forward.
Wow.
Always like away from him. He never like cuddled up to him, never got near his head or his face. And if he didn't know you, that cat would not let you near that crib when my son was sleeping. He would hiss and growl. And
Wow.
so then I always that gave me a little sense of like calm or relief that the cat was there. And in my mind, I don't know if me turning on the light was what did it or if it was the cat jumping into the crib that did it.
Yeah. Probably a little bit
So
of both.
so that's the one story. That's like I said, that's not the first one. That's just the most horrifying one.
Dang, they're spooky, but see what you can, you know. I I'm puzzled sometimes with some of these hauntings and stories, but you know, I believe this is me personally. You know, I've got, like I said, Voodoo. You know, he's a a paranormal investigator and stuff, but because of my beliefs and my faith, you know, I don't believe in ghosts. I believe personally that there's demonic, you know, beings is what they are. And you
Mm-hmm.
know, so and you know, I believe there's angels, you know, good angels, and there's fallen angels and demonic beings too. And I just
Mm-hmm.
don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe that people, you know, when they die could come back, you know, because what I've read, and like a lot of these psychics, they'll say, "Oh, this was your, you know, your mother talking to you, and this," and they might know stuff about you, and he might be doing some cold readings and all that, but
Sure.
there's something called, and you know, my faith and my belief, called familiar spirit, and it's a demonic spirit that is with you and your family, your generations, and knows you from generations to generations. They call familiar spirits. So there might be this being that was with your great great grandmother, knows all about her, not in her, you know, possess her, but you know, in her presence at certain times, and knows all about her because it's been her, you know what I mean? Because I believe there's good
Sure.
and
Yeah.
bad, there's, you know, and because I've been saved from wrecks, and I know I woke up and I see two angels, you know, in the sky, these beams and lights, and I actually have a picture of this angel light. What happened, it was in 2001. I'll never forget it. Of course, I'll never forget it. I got the picture up on the wall, and it's an old picture. You know, it's back in 2001. And I was in North
Sure.
Dakota, and I was out working one day, and my wife decided to come with me. I was doing some painting on some Quonset huts and outbuildings, and she went with me and had them old camcorders. You know, you remember the old camcorders, the big ones,
Yes.
and had
Yep.
that, and then she had a camera, and she's taking pictures. My son, I don't even know how old he was then. He's probably about 3 or 4 years old, and it was right before 9/11. It was right before the singer Aaliyah died. She died when I was in the hospital, I think, because I'll never forget. I was watching that. But anyway, when I get done doing my work, she was inside the truck, and I remember I had tinted windows. You know, always had them dark because of the sun.
Uh-huh.
And I remember she's running the air conditioner, had the tailgate down. I was cleaning up, you know, cleaning the paint off me and all that. And she took a picture, you know, through the back window of me and stuff. Well, anyway, I got in a hurry. It was stupid of me. And these gravel roads in North Dakota and South Dakota are real thick gravel because of the snow and everything. I took a
Yep.
shortcut. I was trying to get to Rugby. I think it was Rugby, North Dakota, right out of Devil's Lake. Beautiful up there, man. So I love that country. Nice people. I ended up nose rolling my vehicle and threw me out the side window. My window busted and nose rolled so many times, threw me out. And my wife and son was in the vehicle. They hardly got a scratch. They were still in the vehicle. And I woke up and I didn't break. I kind of messed some stuff in my back up, but I didn't break anything. And I stayed in the hospital, and I've got injuries till this day. But later on, probably when I woke up, I see two lights, and they were like angelic looking, and they were going like they were hovering. I just can't really explain it, and they just took off real fast. And I was thinking in my head, that's just me, my head, I've been bumped, I had an accident. Well,
Sure.
probably weeks later, whenever I get back home to Oklahoma, she got the film developed, and I blew up the picture. The picture's old now, laminated. It's on my wall here, but you could see me, and I even figured out that the sun was not that way. I went down to remember, how the Billings was anything. But anyway, I blew the picture up. You could see me, and you could see me. I had my head down, and above me is like a man in black. There is like an outline of a man in black above me, and then to the right, you see like little faces in the sky. But to the left, a big old light. There's a big shining light, and it's an outline of an angel. So I believe that my guardian angel was looking after me. I have no doubt, that I got saved because of that, because it was a bad accident. I should have died. The pictures is old now, and I say probably 9 out of 10 could see it. And I'll tell them not to lie to me. If they look at it, they do see it. But
Right.
1 out of 10, I say I don't see anything. And most people to say that are the people are not very nice that have seen the picture. But it's an amazing thing. So I do believe there are angels, good angels and bad angels. And that goes with, the hauntings, I love listening to haunting stories, all that and everything, but I just don't believe. I believe that actually, to me, it's more scary to think that it's something evil than to think that it's a ghost, of an old soldier or something. So,
Yeah.
I mean, as much as I want to believe it, I know deep down in my heart, with my beliefs, it's not true and stuff.
Sure.
So, but, like that, I believe that was something evil, after your son might have been the death angel, coming for him.
Yeah.
Some people say the
Yeah.
Grim Reaper.
Yeah, and I don't, I can't really describe necessarily what it looked like.
Yeah.
Because it was moving fast, but if I did have to give it a shape, it would have been more like almost like a sheet. Like if you think of a sheet ghost flying through the air fast.
Yeah.
Um, it was kind of like that, except for dark shadow, but with tendrils like reaching out, going down the wall. And then I can't really say a face necessarily, but like eyes and like a void, like even though it was dark in the room, I could still see the blackness of the shadow because there was a little bit of light coming in from outside from the window from, nighttime. And I don't think it was like a full moon night, but there was some radiant light outside. a little bit of light coming in.
Yeah.
So you could see, but I want to say like even a darker spot where like maybe there would have been like a mouth, and I don't think any nose. I mean, I still see it vividly in my head. I just don't know. Like if I was an artist, I could probably draw it, but to like explain it is a little harder to do. But that's just kind of, you know, essentially like a sheet ghost type figure with tendrils like, that would seemingly be arms reaching out, and no trees out the window or anything, you know, to like.
Do you think it? Did you? Okay, let me ask you this: two questions. I'm not doubting you at all because you know I believe in this stuff. Do you? Could it have been just shadows or something, or your mind playing trick, or what is that word? Pareidolia or whatever when you see stuff that's not, you know.
And I wrestled with that for I felt like his life was in danger, and that if I did not get to him fast enough, that was gonna be it.
Well, it was your mother's instinct, so yeah, it's probably God waking you up.
Yeah, and that you know, and I think for me, if it wouldn't have been for the cat jumping up and hissing at the shadow, like the cat wasn't hissing at me.
Yeah.
The cat was facing the wall and hissing like up as this thing is coming down towards my child.
Yeah.
You know, but I did wrestle with that for a very long time. And as other things happened throughout my life that kind of like validated my feelings slowly, you know, like you're not crazy. But you know, I did. Like I tried to recreate because I was like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
This is just dumb. You know, so I'm like, there's no, you know, like the next morning, I'm like looking outside. I'm like, there's no trees out of the window. I'm like, there's trees off in the distance. So, you know, there must have been a light over. But I'm like constantly going in there at night and looking. And I was like, I've never seen that again. And even when they're, you know, you get, so about the only time you would get a shadow in the room through the window, which would mean the curtain would have had to have been like open, right?
Yeah.
For that big shadow, not just slightly cracked with a little bit of radiant light coming in. Would be when the sun was going down, and then it would be like an orange type light coming in the window, cast in the tree shadow. That's the only time there's tree shadows in that room.
Oh, yeah, I believe you. I definitely believe that it was something.
Yeah, and so then I'm like, well, maybe it was a car driving by that hit something, you know, but it's just like, I don't know. I think the cat is what, if it wouldn't have been for the cat, I probably would have told myself I had a nightmare, and that was playing out still in my head while I was running to my child, if it wasn't for the cat.
I believe you 100%. So many stories that I've been told by my ghost stories, my aunt, my uncles, my mom, you know, crazy stories.
Yeah.
But I'll read the last one.
Okay.
Yoki. Yeah, I think that doing 4 stories is about right for this.
Yeah.
That gives you time, you know, and I know a lot of times that I want to, depends on what I'm listening to, I can listen to them for hours, but, you know, I think 4 stories is about balance for us, you know, on this, the whispers. But yeah, we'll do episode. You know, I want to do separate episodes of guys. If y'all want to see something like that, leave a comment on the video. You know, if you like to see us, you know, talking about different paranormal things, not just about the States. And of course, I want to do around the world, you know, too. But anyway, I'll read the last one. The Ghosts of the Arsenal, Little Rock Shadow Soldiers. In the heart of Little Rock, nestled inside MacArthur Park, stands a looming brick structure built in 1840, the Little Rock Arsenal. It's one of the oldest buildings in the city and also one of the most haunted. During the Civil War, the arsenal was used to store weapons and ammunition for both the Union and Confederate forces at different times. Tensions ran high there, duels were fought, prisoners were executed, and some say traitors were hung by the trees just outside the building. Visitors and employees of what is now the MacArthur Museum of Military History report strange occurrences. cold spots in the middle of summer. The sounds of boots marching across empty floors, apparitions of soldiers in Confederate gray silently standing guard in the halls, and sometimes the disembodied voice of a man shouting, "Hold the line." One of the earliest reports come from the night guards who claim to hear the clinking of sabers or the rattles of chains, followed by the smell of gunpowder and pipe smoke, no source to be found. The basement is said to be the most active. Some say it's where prisoners were held and where the dead were dragged before being buried. Lights flicker, batteries drain. One guard quit on the spot after seeing a figure walk through a solid brick wall. Even skeptics leave uneasy, saying there's something about the building that remembers war, as if it's still waiting for the next battle to begin. So if you visit Little Rock, pass by the old arsenal at night, don't ignore the footsteps behind you. They might not be your own. Yeah, that Civil War was bloody. There was a lot of people died and stuff, both sides, and there's I did not know that there was that in Little Rock, which a lot of battles that I think P Ridge is the most famous one that I've heard of in Arkansas. If there's anything else that you want to add before I end it, Reese?
I don't think so, other than thank you for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
No problem, no problem. I really appreciate you coming on. And like I said, I'd like to have you back for future episodes and even some other episodes of some more paranormal or whatever. It's really fun talking about this stuff. I could go on for 3 or 4 hours talking about it and going down rabbit trails too. I'm good for that, but
yeah, me too.
I do.
Me too.
I do enjoy it. But anyway, guys, I appreciate you watching this episode of Whispers Across America, Arkansas. Thank you, Reese, again for being on. And until next time, guys, make sure you look under your bed at night before you go to
Bye,
sleep.
guys.
Anyway, peace out, everyone.